Hello, guess who's coming to dinner? Happy Friday. Guess who's coming to dinner? Well, it took us a minute, Sometimes things work like you want them and sometimes they don't. And so today, it just took a little time. Hope you tuned in anyway. I sent you a message to say, give us a minute so we could get things straight over here, because this is a conversation that you did not want to miss. So if you need to send something out to your friends and family and let them know that we're on the air, we are on the air with Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Tonight, the conversation is part 2 of the Black Six panel discussion that was held at the Fraser Museum a week or so ago. Well, a couple of weeks ago now. And I was invited as the guest of Mr. Sam Hawkins to come and be a part of that. And it was very refreshing to take me back, 50 years or more, what they say, 54 years or more. So before I show you some of the clips from the conversation, I'm going to bring in my guest, Mr. Sam Hawkins. How you doing, Sam?
Doing great, Janet. How about you today, dear?
I'm just fine. I'm sorry. You were patient. You were diligent till you got that thing to work, huh?
Yeah, well, they had spoken to me this morning from Spectrum and said that we were having some kind of email problems, and they were trying to straighten that out. That might have been what the problem is.
Okay. But I got you now.
Thank you, dear.
So tell me what you thought about the panel discussion.
I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was very interesting. It was very nice of the hosts to interview us, and I'm so glad that most of us got to be there. And I'm sorry that Brother Cosby passed on. Of course, his funeral's tomorrow.
Oh, and, I didn't know that, Sam.
Yes, his funeral's tomorrow at St. Stephen's.
Oh, wow.
At 12 o'clock.
Okay.
So it's only 2 of us that are now surviving as far as the Black Six goes.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's something. So finally, there has been some conversation trying to bring some closure to what really happened, And let's talk about, Sam, what I'd like to do is, I asked you brought up some Bible verses, some scriptures.
Right.
When they were talking about things then and now, and you were talking about the hate that has manifested in our whole society in actuality.
Yes.
And I need to hold on. Let me just take myself out for a second. I gotta get my Bible.
Okay.
Thank you. I have to have my director, my husband, go get my Bible for me.
Okay, well, did I bring that out?
But on my phone, I wrote, you mentioned some scriptures, and I want to start there tonight. And the scriptures that you mentioned, one was Matthew 5:43 and 45.
I think that's what it is, yes.
That's something, because we've been discussing Matthew in Bible study. Isn't that right, Jack? Yeah. And we've been discussing Matthew 5. So 43 to 45 says, ye have heard that it hath been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you.
Yes.
So that's where you see us today, because it's a black-white thing. I don't care what anybody says. It's a race thing, just like you mentioned. It used to just be about Black folks. Now it's about Mexicans. Now it's about Asians.
Yes.
Now if it's somebody and then it's this LGBT community, anything that people or a certain group of people don't like, then just like the Trumpsters, I'm gonna say it because see, I can
Yes.
talk about them.
Yes.
They've decided that everything they say is correct. Okay. My thought is just because you say it, don't make it so.
That is true.
So give me your perspective on loving that our enemies and how we've always been the more apologetic race.
There we go.
Huh?
There we go. Here's the deal. Today we're living in an age whereby if you read scripture, as you just got through saying, you just got to read some of the scripture. We're living in a time right now, very perilous times, whereby Christ tried to warn us. And I know everybody talks about this, and they talk about peace, and they talk about praying and all of these things. And I'm very sure you're going to go into Matthew 12 in a few minutes and what Jesus said. So I go exactly what he says, being a Christian. And what happens is that we have a lot of people out here today, we come up with these narratives. They're basically what they are. They're an energy of force demonically set in order by a time where there is a man now on earth and he is pushing all of these lies to its basic Corinza, it's the top of the line. The man is the former vice president of the United States, number 45. I call him Agent Orange.
Yeah.
Anyway, he
Yes.
has definitely pushed it to the edge of the envelope. And what's happening is he's got people out there that's believing these demonic lies.
Right.
And what's happening is that they are using these narratives and how they use the narratives. I guess if you watched last night, one of the things was said about the investigation. If you watched it last night, if anyone watched it last night, one of the things Pence tried to do, one of the things that Trump tried to do when they were involved in this riot was that he had his Mr. I can't think of his name right now, but anyway, he had expressed to him and
his lawyer.
One of his lawyers, yes. Okay. And he had expressed to General Miller that what he wanted to do was Trump wanted to take the narrative, and that's one of the words that they use, narratives. In other words, he was in control of telling the military what to do when really that was a lie.
Right.
He didn't call anyone that had a position to quell this instigational thing that was going on. Pence was the one that did it, but what they tried to do, they tried to change the narrative. Well, that's where we are right now. The alternative of everything that's true is backwards.
Right.
And Kellyanne Conway was the one that came up with that.
Everything that they say, they take the truth and make it a lie.
There you go. And it's an enigma in an enigma is what they do. And it's just like all these issues. And I spoke on that when we were at that hearing, not hearing, but when we were at the Fraser Center, that what they do, they have these things are all wedge issues. See, and each one of these people, like the Proud Boys or whoever it is, whether it's abortion, whatever it is, they attach themselves to the wedge issues. And that's what they stick with. They can't get out of that because then that would show their face. Right. See, now they no longer have the hood on.
No, they took that hood out.
So now they're identified. So they're in the game. They can't get out of the game now. And I when Trump first came into office, I said, they were talking about, well, we can't get him to stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing that. And I kind of reminded folks, I said, well, Trump is like a junkyard dog. Now, once you leave the junkyard and try to come back in, he gets vicious. And that's what he was doing all the time. He's a junkyard dog, man. His whole thing is, I'm going to keep you on that side of the fence while I got my side of the fence taken care of. Abortion, it's a Trojan horse. Yes, they want to ask women to not, be engaged in abortion. I don't believe in abortion myself, but I don't think I got the right to go to my next door neighbor and tell her husband her what she should do with her body. That's between her and God.
Right.
Then they want to take over, and here's another thing they like to do. They want to take that issue up, but here's the issue they don't want to do. The issue is they don't want to provide substance, money, for these homes, like the home of the innocents and all of these things. This is why you got all these different things, like the Crosser for Children here the other day. Outside folks got to collect money to help folks, children that's been abandoned.
Right.
See, you know, these people don't want to put money into those children that have been abandoned. So they got all these little crusade for children and the Jerry Lewis thing and to raise money. And if it wasn't for the people raising money, these young children, the indigent children out there, well, they would not have what they call pot to piss in. Okay.
Right. Listen, so let me ask you this. Let's go to that's where we are now with the hate.
Yes.
And back then, Sam, when you were an activist, and how did that come about for you? What made you decide to get involved in the movement? And what aspect of the movement? Because I think I heard you said that you were a part of SCLC.
Yes.
Okay. What made you decide to become a part of SCLC, and what was it that you wanted to do right here in Louisville, Kentucky, as far as being one of the figureheads? Because I always saw you out there. I always saw you in your dashikis, you know, because you knew from a distance that was Sam Hawkins. He was on his way. And if Sam was on his way, something wasn't going right. And Sam was trying to find out so you could make it right. What made you decide to take that role on?
Well, let me kind of explain it a couple of minutes. What it really started was I was in the United States Marine Corps.
Okay.
And when I was in the Marine Corps, I was a weapons instructor. I recruited, I helped recruits in San Diego to become sufficient with weapons.
Okay.
So I knew all about the AR-15, A-14, all of those weapons. So when I was in the Marine Corps, I also taught FBI at Quantico, Virginia. And that's where I was stationed at before I got out. Now, what happened was that there was a bombing in a church in Alabama where these little black young girls got killed. Well, you know, me and some of my friends being in the service saying to ourselves, well, we over here going to Vietnam and other places to fight, you know, a so-called enemy.
Right.
That's never, like Ali said, never done anything to us.
Right.
But we over here trying to fight these so-called enemies, and back home, our own people are getting killed.
Right.
So when I got out of the service, I came back and I got involved in a few things. And then the movement started, you know, the open housing started, and I become an activist in open housing. Me, Sherry, and then we got involved. I guess attention was drawn onto us. We got involved and was asked to put together an organization that would help Black youth, bring Black youth into the movement, and that's what we did. We start recruiting all around the state.
You got me. I was up in open housing. I was all up in it.
You was a member of the Black Unity League Kentucky. Sherry, a whole bunch of, and I tell a lot of young people today. I said, you know, because of the Black Unity League of Kentucky, let's just take University of Kentucky, University of Louisville. Before the Black Unity League of Kentucky, you know, basketball, all of these different things, Black student studies, we're not on these campuses.
Right. No.
Okay.
They weren't even on the campus at Kentucky State, not Black studies.
They put you guys off Kentucky State. They suspended them. Okay. So what we did was the McCullum brothers, Jerry Neal, his brother, started going to University of Kentucky, University of Louisville, and Kentucky State, and asked them to put in place programs and classes on Black history, Black study. We wanted that. Right. And they refused continuously. But we struggled, we fought, just like we did in the housing thing. We kept going to them and kept going to them. and kept pushing the issue and kept moving students along to make them realize and get into the faces of those, who were in charge of the universities. That's how basically a lot of these students of today are going to the University of Louisville, University of Kentucky, because of the Black Unity League of Kentucky.
I remember, Sam, when I went to my first year at Kentucky State was 1968.
Yes.
And we had a Black student union.
Yes.
See, because just like you're saying, they didn't have Black studies for us. No. And Kentucky State had just had a riot up on the hill before I entered Kentucky State. They had just had their own uprising up on the hill. They burned down the old football house in the old stadium. And when I got there, everything was all about Black power. Okay. But also I'm going to touch on something for you about something that's dear and near to me, that's actually getting ready to start Saturday. The Dirt Bowl.
Yes.
The Dirt Bowl was one of those events that we were able to have. And I am a co-founder of the Dirt Bowl.
Yes.
Me and Ben Watkins.
And Ben Hopkins.
Ben Watkins.
Ben Watkins,
Me and Ben Watkins were park supervisors at Algonquin.
That is correct.
Park that had everything: swimming pool, tennis courts. And we started the Dirt Bowl. Ben was a basketball player he was going to Jackson State, and I was a cheerleader at Kentucky State. And that's still going on today. But that was a race zone-free area and event. There was no police. White boys came and played.
Yes.
Nobody bothered anybody. That was the only place that this city, and still to this day, Sam, I have to say that I noticed that in this segregated city that we live in, except when it comes to U of L basketball and U of L football, we come together in those areas at those times. But that's it. And when that's over and we go our separate ways, we segregated again.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's crazy to me.
And the reason why is, I said, because we're caught in these narratives. We have these things where we got people, I want to say a couple of things that
this is your time.
I kind of guide a little something here.
Okay.
I go back and you was talking, you started the conversation off and you talking about basically the ignorance and the hate that's going on, in this country right now. Right. And all of these wedge issues, all of these excuses, all of these narratives, alternative narratives that they're using. Now, it used to be, in our time back in 58, 50s and 40s and everything, with the Black folks. And then it came up to be the Asians, and then it became to be the foreign Easterners. Okay.
You got the Mexicans, then you had the Asians.
Yes. And so the persistent, just like you just got through said, Black folks have always been a compassionate, a human-minded person that give out love. We don't hate. Right. But we're not going to take a lot of sitting down when you're trying to put your foot on our neck. Like Dr. King said, we can't just let you keep your foot on our neck. No, we got to stand up. So, and I'm saying is, like the job market before this pandemic. Okay. I would say to you, and you can look it up, Janet, I would say to you that when the unemployment was like it was, I would say to you that 82% of the people in Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia and these areas, I would say to you, they probably couldn't get a job, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, and I know you've done it, and I've done it too. Okay, if you went to go to GE, our older families went to GE, and they went out and they had these presses and everything where you punch the button and all these kind of things like that, and the auto parts come out. It was an automatic thing, Then all at once ergonomics come in. Ergonomics came in, and these machines started taking jobs.
Right.
Okay, but the iterativism goes very broad. So people start to saying, well, these people got my job. These people took my job. So what happened is one of the biggest overthrows, or tried to be an overthrow, was when Ronald Reagan came in office. Okay, what Ronald Reagan wanted to do was, because blacks were intertwined in unions, we were becoming
very much so
of unions and things.
Very much so.
And it used to be a sort of patronage type thing whereby one's family could go get the cousin and come to work, because the boss wasn't gonna hire no black person. He'd hire the family member. I tell you, I've experienced it on the railroad, had to sue him for it and got big money. Okay. So, you know, and these people up in the mountains and the hills and all these type of places like that, all they know was cold. All they know was menial task jobs. Okay. That's all they could do. So when ergonomics came along and these machines started billing stuff, they got caught in this thing whereby they were not multiple taskers. They were single-minded. This is the job that I go down in the mine, I make the coal, I do this, I do that. See, they didn't have that thing whereby when I try to build my side, I said, tell me what the job's all about. Give me 2 weeks, I'm gonna work that job.
Right.
See, they didn't think like that. Their mind said, okay, well, here's this guy over here. He's working a job, he's black, whatever it is. If he working a job, how is he working a job when my nephew should be working a job? Okay. So they couldn't go through that. So now the situation is, and think about this, Janet. The Spanish, the Mexicans from South America, okay, all at once, they're the new black man, the new Asian, the new Arab.
Black men.
Okay. Now all at once they come across the border. Listen to them now. Well, they come across the border taking my job. No, I'll tell you why you ain't got no job. Because you are just one-minded, tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision.
That's why you ain't got no mind. And plus you own them opioid drugs. Because every 90 days, they're gonna take that test. And when you can't fit that test, guess what? Unemployment gonna go up.
Right.
Because you can't keep a job.
You know, Sam, when you're saying those things, and you look at, like you say, West Virginia, Appalachians, Eastern Kentucky.
Yes.
Then you're talking about they're not as educated maybe as the city folks are. Okay.
Yes.
They found one industry that they focused on.
There you go.
So they have one skill set. So their skill set, especially when technology kicked in.
There you go.
And then they talk about they want to change the fuel from coal to nuclear energy or something.
Yes.
This is foreign. You know, number one, it sounds like you're taking my livelihood, but y'all dying in them coal mines.
There you go.
Y'all dying on a daily basis. And the other thing that people don't understand, when one of the conversations that at the end, when the attorney that was sitting next to you said, white people need to talk to white people about racial injustice. It's kind of like, it's difficult for us. It has to be difficult for us because I've been on this earth 72 years and the conversation has not transpired like it should have. But when white folks talk to other white folks during the civil rights movement, that's one reason that propelled the civil rights movement to be as big as it was, because Martin Luther King used the television to show the world how we were being treated.
Right.
And now, even though we're at this point where now we're seeing Black folks actually killed on TV in front of our eyes. I can't believe that. That's why I started this show.
Thank you.
I mean, we're there when they say, what's his name? Gil Scott said, when the revolution comes and the Black poets. See, a lot of young kids don't know about that. We had all these subliminal messages from artists years ago talking about the revolution. We're in a revolution. We haven't pulled out all the guns yet, but the guns are out.
Right. Yes.
You know, the guns are out. And it's a sad commentary when we have to go back and review all the past that's been done, just like Mayor Fisher said. If you don't talk about the past, you can't fix the future.
There you go.
You can't fix the future if you don't talk about the past. They say critical race theory. Y'all can say white people can say everything they want to say about critical race theory, but it happened.
There you go.
You know, you might not want your kids to know about it, but it happened. That won't stop it from having existed. It happened. Somebody's going to tell them somewhere along the line. We just need them to learn sooner rather than later.
Well, Janet, I said, they come up with this woke. Yeah, we woke up. Black folks woke up. See, and what's happening is that, we're seeing all these things, but our youth, here's what seemed to be the problem. And our youth, they're caught up in I got to have expediency.
Right. Right now. I want it right now.
I like the shoes. I ain't got no money. I like the shoes. The basketball shoes are the very clothes that they wear, but I ain't got no money. Mm-hmm. I got to go get with my crowd and see what kind of things that we can do, whose house we can break in, or whatever it is. And then we got to argue over nothing. Now, here's what I said a long time ago. Me and Bishop Lyons were out, and here's what I said a long time ago. See, when you got killings, let me say this to you. When you got killings, somebody know who did it. Okay? You didn't get, hey, people like to boast. Okay? So some of them remember we was there last week or week before last. Some grandmother, some uncle, some cousin, some niece, somebody know who killed who. Right. It doesn't go silent. Not all of these killings. No. It isn't one of them things where I don't know who did it. Yes, you know who did it. If your grandbaby or whatever it is. So that's what they're trying to get into now when they're talking about the gun issue. They're trying to get into the mental instability of these young people that's out there. They got some problems. And some of the problems is that we, as older adults, really want them to be like us, but we haven't really sat down and explained, just like you just got through saying, some of the things that were going on in our time when you got these young people talking about, well, I wouldn't have never let that happen to me. Oh, yes, you would have. Back in the 50s and 60s, you never own a gun. You better not have one on you. Right. If you had one on you, you're going to the penitentiary.
Because we live in different times, Sam, and we have the values have changed.
There you go.
Because the things that are important, like you say, to the kids, and not all of them, not all
That's
of them
true.
Are bad. Not all of them. We got a lot of kids going to college, a lot of kids that even don't go to college, that have good jobs or have become entrepreneurs. We're a very creative race of people.
There you go.
And some of the things that the crime element that's happening in our community right now, these are some things that are having problems behind closed doors.
Yes.
And these are also children who have maybe emulated the behavior of their parents.
Yes.
Now we have a generation of parents that went through that crack cocaine. We don't talk about it much.
There you go.
Okay. We have, and some of these children were crack babies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what their life and the substance that they got, they have missed a lot. And as the village that we knew about when we grew up, that village has to wake up. That village needs to be woke.
Right.
Because we need to embrace our children, because we're losing a whole generation with the killings that we have in our city.
Yes. Well, we got a lot of, and also we got to, we got a lot of pastors. Janet, when we were marching, all of us, you,
Right.
all of us, Sherry, all of us out in the street, we had churches that was backing up the community.
Right.
We had pastors that was getting out there on the front line, like a lot of them, A.D. King
And Leo Lesser.
Leo Lesser,
Yeah.
and well, like Dr. King and all of them, and the pastor of a Southern Baptist church there on Algonquin. He was head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference at that particular time. Anyway, we had the back end of the community and the church.
Okay.
And that's what's wrong right now. We got a lot of pastors, they want to be talking. That's good. I ain't got no problem with that. But we got to put some feet on the ground in the neighborhoods and say, hey, we're going to back you. Because back at that particular time when I was out there demonstrating and you was demonstrating, with, look here, I was like everybody else. But guess what? I had no fear about going to jail every night, 2 or 3 times a night. No. I had no fear about that. They got a fear right now that they don't, they don't feel like, well, if I get out there and get involved, I might get shot or something like that. That's the problem. You have to put yourself out there to make others know that, hey, we can get this thing together. There's some pastors, they have pastor alliance meeting all the time, but they don't want to get out there and help the community stop it. They want to talk about it behind the pulpit, but they don't want to stop it.
Well, see, just like we had that panel discussion at the Fraser, Sam, we need to have community discussions just like that, where we come and we discuss and we talk about solutions and what we can do by coming together, how we can help our own community. Because Mr. Reed said some things about us being that we have to build us up, back up. We have to be responsible to build the West End back up, because it's been 54 years and they haven't gotten any money. And now since all the deaths happened, they see a reason that maybe they should invest in the West. Yes. They should have always invested in the West. It wasn't Louisville, and then there's the West End.
I remember something that Pastor Cosby said at his father's funeral, Lathan Cosby's funeral. Mm-hmm. He said that the cavalry ain't coming.
He said what?
The cavalry's not coming.
Oh, the cavalry ain't coming, no.
So we're gonna have to work these issues out ourselves.
Yeah,
yes, we out there, we employ the mayor and other organizations to provide money for our neighborhoods, to restaurate our neighborhoods, but we're just getting a scratch of it. You know what I'm saying? We just really ain't getting anywhere. And there are many organizations that are trying to organize these conversations around economic basis. Like you say, Brother Reed, he's always been an economic basis person. That's what we need to do. We need to sit down and have these meetings with some folks. I don't know who we're going to be hitting with.
The young. The old have to teach the young.
Yes. We got a lot of organizations moving that way. We got a lot of organizations.
We got a lot of good things going on.
But I say it still comes out of that church. We are church folks.
The church folks are
church folks.
Yes.
We believe in humanity and love and compassion and all those type of things. We church folks.
Exactly.
We believe in that. And we like the song we used to sing. Remember that song we used to? We will not be denied. We will not be denied. No matter how.
I shall not be moved.
Shall not be moved.
I shall not be moved. I mean, it's like you think about the songs that we sang.
Yes.
Sam, I never had any fear when I went out to march.
I hear you.
I mean, I didn't think about anything. I mean, I took one of my girlfriends one time. Do you remember there was a guy, his name was Big Rudy. You remember Big Rudy?
Yes.
Rudy was about 350 pounds. And the first time I took one of my girlfriends with me, her name was Annetta. I took Annetta with me. I said, now, Annetta, if the police come to drag you, to put you in the paddy wagon, I told her, I said, don't let them drag you. She held on to Big Rudy. Listen, Sam, Big Rudy didn't get, well, number one, they couldn't pick up Big Rudy.
Mm-hmm.
And my girlfriend would not let him go. And I just was amazed at this was the first time she'd ever been to a march. And I thought she was a little timid, you know, so I was trying to, expose my friends to what I had been exposed to. So I took her to the march with me. And I said, and I kept saying to her, they were going to drag Big Rudy because that's all they could do, because they couldn't pick him up. She would not let, so they dragged her. And I watched this happen, and I'm saying, okay, so she showed me that she understood why she was there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And I was telling Sherry when you all were talking the other night, I used to tell my mother, I said, if I'm not home by 10 o'clock, pick me up at Children's Center. Because that's where I'll be.
It's where we was all at down in jail.
Yeah. I said, pick me up at Children's Center. I come home and do my homework. I catch a bus and go to Quinn Chapel and get my marching orders. And we go out to Iroquois Park area, South Louisville.
Yes.
And we demonstrated for open house. I'll never forget it.
No fear. Spit in the face,
listen, this rocks. Is what I want to do.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to show, I don't know how much time you have, but I want to show the second part of the conversation that we had at the Fraser. If you want to hang out, you can go get you something.
I will. Go right ahead on. I will.
But I'm gonna pull that up because that was, I wanted people to hear some of the things that were saying, and even hear about when I told them about what really started. It wasn't a riot, it was a rally.
There you go.
Kind of keep trying to say we had a riot. We didn't have no riot. We had a rally. Look.
Right. But each year, if you noticed, each year they kind of coming back to really what it really happened. You know what I'm saying? The newspapers began to say, well, the police, it wasn't going on till the police got involved. That's what I've been saying for years.
Yeah. I mean, it was as peaceful as it could be. All the people that were there, it was peaceful.
Yeah.
Okay, so check this out.
Okay.
I got to bring this up.
And it comes back to a different judge, which is very crucial.
This is Judge Nicholson.
That's right. It comes back to Judge Nicholson, who was just won election.
The trial down to Mumfordville.
He gets the case back.
Okay.
And
can you hear me, Sam?
Well, we just fast forward. 22 witnesses testified during the trial after the prosecution rested on July 7th, 1970. So it happened in 68. So this is 2 years of wrangling. Judge Nicholson ordered a directed verdict of not guilty because of insufficient evidence on the charges. How unusual was that? I want to pause to let that reaction. How unusual was this? Because there were other cases like it going on around the country. How unusual was it to get this directed verdict and thrown out, basically?
Well, enough credit. I mean, it took a lot of guts here. This thing had gone on back and forth, hot potato, and there were so many continuances made in this case by the prosecution, which begin to tell you there's something wrong with the prosecution's case. I mean, when this and moving it around and all of that. So here's Nicholson. For him to direct a verdict of acquittal was really unheard of. It was so unusual, and it took so much guts, and he really got a lot of credit because public officials refused to stand up and say this is bullshit, and he basically did that. And he should have received a lot more honor and accolades for doing it. He certainly did for the folks that were involved in it, but it was quite a stand to do that.
Manfred and Sam, do you want to weigh in on the feelings when that happened? I think we see some jubilation that was up there on the outside of the courthouse steps. Do you remember when that came, but like this nightmare is now over?
Well, there was a relief, but in my case, I was laboring under the effects of all of those changes that were taking place in my life. And because you lose everything, you lose your business, you lose your holdings, and life is not the same anymore, and it leads to loss of family. But that was a period of relief at that particular moment. But the burden of the effects of those changes was on you heavily. And I'm pretty sure that each one of us had the same stress on them as we went through that period.
We want to talk about that, Toll. Joy, do you want to pick up with some of that with what happened with Manfred?
So, Manfred, let's start with you. You obviously just mentioned how much it impacted your livelihood. You found yourself alone. Some of your friends maybe not even wanting to associate with you. Could we maybe ask Sam how this affected you?
Well, this might sound funny to you. Me, Bob, and me, Bob Kuyu, and Cortez stayed in jail because they kept the bond hounds. Here's the deal, though, ladies and gentlemen, and I was going to write about this. There never was a conspiracy. This man, her mother, me, Bob, and all of us never was in the same house together. The reason why that the judge saw this, all of these witnesses that came forward, you talk about the 24, none of them could put us
All together.
At the trial, during the trial, this gentleman here and Pete Cosby, they were traveling all over the country. They were going to different business places. So we really didn't even sit in the courtroom. They were running. So it was a joke. The whole thing was a joke. And they knew it. They knew they couldn't put us together, the six of us together in one place. And the whole deal was how the whole thing started. And I know Bill's client, the whole thing started was Bob Delahaney. I was in an accident, and I received money from this accident when I was locked up. The police saw all of this money that I had, so they thought, which Cortez had told them, that I was going to buy dynamite and stuff to blow up. We were going to buy dynamite and stuff to blow up the refinery, which Ruth Branson lived right across the street from it. Now she's going to be blowing up her own house. Okay? So that's how the whole thing started. See, he came up with this, and Dan Taylor come and told me, we were in jail, me and Bob. He come and told us, he said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, I want you to remember this. He said, you got an agent provocateur among you. I said, okay. I really didn't understand that at first, but Dan and Bob kind of told us what it was. That's how the whole thing started. The police saw that I had some money, well above, I think it was like $4,000. When I got arrested, I had $4,000, and that's why they thought that we were going to buy this dynamite and stuff with this money that I had. But that it hurt me because I knew we were imprisoned for no reason except, that's the part of the game that we were in. I've been arrested several times before, so I knew that this was going to be one of them kind that they were going to try to send me to penitentiary. But they had to have witnesses, and they never could put all six of us together.
Took a terrible toll on a lot of you. Manfred, I just want to point out, you weren't an activist at the time. You became one after this. You have been working with affordable housing. You've been the longtime chair of the Louisville Metro Housing Authority, the Board of Commissioners. I believe you still are. Are you still?
I'm still chairman. Yeah, thank
Just to let you know. And you were awarded the Dr. MLK Jr. Freedom Award by the mayor in 2017.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you weren't an activist, you ended up an activist, and you still are. And we thank you for your service to the community all these years. So, Joy, I'll let you pick up on that then.
So Sherry, what about your mom and everything that had been going on? Obviously, we just heard about this conspiracy that was associated with her name. Did this, thinking about you now, did this influence your decision to get into politics?
I'm sure it did, but with my mother, she was shocked when she was indicted. Nobody had ever interviewed her. No police had ever questioned her. Nothing. She was in San Francisco. She got a call from Neville Tucker saying, "Ruth, get back here. You've been indicted."
And she was saying, what?
Yeah, what is this about? So, and then it was just so ludicrous because, accusing her of going to blow up the oil refinery across the street from our house. It was just so crazy. But anyway, so when it was, when I saw the pictures from the Courier Journal, Louisville Times, I had never seen that expression on my mother's face.
You called me and said, can you send me that picture? You
Yeah.
wanted to see it. What was it about her face that struck you, and what did it say to you?
I didn't recognize her. I mean, she looked like something had been taken out of her. The wind had just been, she couldn't believe that she was being treated like that. You know what I mean? After everything she was trying to do. So her friends rallied around her. Her community rallied around her. People came by the house when she got back. She said she felt like she could imagine being at her own wake. The outpouring of support that she was getting from her friends. But she decided to step back. I'm like, no, because at one point, she was in more organizations and on boards and commissions than any other woman in Louisville. So, youth, you name it, health and welfare, Planned Parenthood, Women's Political Caucus, she was active, and she just said, let me sit back for a minute.
So the toll it took was tremendous. We want to kind of fast forward to the parallels we see today.
Well, let me get to that because she 68, right? And it finally got settled in 70. And then in 71, she decided to sue the mayor, the police chief, those 5 police officers who testified against her. Bill Allison was her attorney on appeal. So her case went on for another 5 years.
Wow.
She wasn't through with this until 1973.
Did she win that case?
No. And I think my father got to the point, we're not paying. No. But so that was 73. And then in August of 73, she found out about Channing Namgyal and she had a seeking mind, and it was about world peace and individual happiness and humanism, because she figured we have changed laws, but we have not changed people's hearts and minds. We have not changed. And so.
Sam.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go there.
Well,
when she talks about they made laws, but they haven't changed anybody's hearts and minds.
No, ma'am. Well, basically, what's happening right now is it's been a systemic. I just got through watching the other night, Rosewood. I don't know if you watched that movie before. Have you ever seen that movie, Rosewood?
Yes.
That's a true account that happened down in Florida. I lived in Florida. We're living in a time, like I say, very perilous times right now, whereby we could just go right back to that same thing that I say. There's the perversion of mind, whereby people want to have these different wedge issues, which basically is a Trojan horse. All of these Trojan horses are thrown up, but inside them, there's like an enigma. Every time that you unpeel something, like an orange, whatever it is, there's a new thing. So if you come out and say right is right, they will say, well, wrong is wrong. Right. So it doesn't make any difference because that's their mindset, their like-mindedness. Right now, there are a lot of like-minded people like Donald Trump. It's hard to get past them, and it's hard because I work with them. I work with them pretty much every day. They come up with some sly comments because they think that they have the right to be able to speak of issues that are not true about Black people, about Mexicans, about Spanish, about anybody other than themselves,
As
because
if
they
they were
cannot
true.
face that.
Yeah, as if they were true. Let's pick it up. Let's bring this back up top.
She saw this as a path to individual happiness, peace in the community, and she was a leader and introduced people. And our house was open again for years, 15, 20 years, introducing people to the philosophy, to the Buddhist philosophy. So she picked herself back up. She started Booker Bryant and Associates. She got back into housing. She built California Square, the townhouse and garden apartments at 16th and Garland. She got into Urban Louisville Corporation with Ken, which was an economic development piece, which was a precursor for one of those economic development arms of city government. And then she got into building bridges, highway transportation, painting houses. She stayed involved. She evolved. 1971, she was one of Ebony's best dressed. So, I mean, as Buster Coleman would always tell me, you can't stay in a constant state of mad. You know what I mean? So she trusted things, and seeing how she stood up, spoke up, she was my inspiration and my role model.
You said that was kind of the moral of the story for you, that even though it took its toll, don't back down. Do what's right. And I know that you had said that. Quickly, the parallels that you see with what happened then and what is happening today in our community. Manfred, let's start with you.
I often look at it as retrogression. We've regressed back to an earlier stage of development. We have lost the continuity that we had in the community at that time. And when you look at the west end of Louisville, I'll say west of 9th Street, the deterioration is appalling. And we have to be able to look forward toward reorganizing and restructuring our neighborhoods so that we can begin a process of rebuilding and begin to stimulate investment capital into the West End by government and private industry, so we can rebuild.
Hold on.
As we look and make a comparison between then and now, we've lost more ground up to date than we have gained.
That's
And
the truth.
refocusing on community development,
Absolutely.
reuniting our people, will eventually pull us in the direction whether we can begin to establish workforce development for our young people, educational opportunities in terms of skills development, expansion of home ownership and home replacement of the housing stock was needed. These are economic initiatives that will always exist in any neighborhood. And we need to be able to generate that activity in our neighborhood and get back to the process of growing and developing as a neighborhood. That era was a beginning for us because we were just moving into the West End.
The West End.
And our hopes and aspirations at that time were high. And since that time, they've been dashed with disappointments. And when we look at 28th and Greenwood, for example, it's been 50.
You know what I'm going to do?
What's that, dear?
I want to move this up further because I really want the audience to see some of the question and answers, not just because I'm in it, but I want them to hear what the mayor did.
Okay, thank you.
Sam, because nobody else has ever done that. So
That's true.
I can find
Or the city.
up. No, I'm good. I went right to it.
Okay.
Okay, for everyone listening, this is, you can't see him. They didn't put him on camera, but this is Mayor Fisher.
Bottle sounded like a gunshot.
Okay, That's me. So listen to that part.
And everyone began to run. And everything that happened after that happened after that.
Well, thank you all for a great panel. Did you all ever receive an apology from the judiciary or the city?
Anybody?
I don't
Did
know.
did anybody ever receive an apology, Manfred? The
No.
mayor's asking?
No. No.
So when we, hear these people that want to denounce critical race theory today and say that we just need to move on, and there are people that look like this, until we acknowledge the harm that's happened in the past, it's hard to move on.
Yes, sir.
That's true.
That's right.
So I wasn't there then, but I'm here now. I represent an institution, so I apologize.
Thank you.
Look, I get chill bumps.
Is that right?
I got, it just makes me want to cry. But that takes, to me, I sent the mayor a text after that. I said, he wants to keep saying Louisville is this compassionate city. I said, the mayor, Louisville's not a compassionate city. You are compassionate, but maybe our city's not there yet.
There you go.
Our city is not there yet. Sam, I'm going to bring me and you and I back up, and we might go back into that. But just being able to have that conversation that day, and I want to thank you for inviting me.
Very welcome.
Because I would have been upset if I had missed out on that, because I was able to tell people that little boy threw that pop bottle off the building, and that's what started everything. He was being a kid.
Yes.
But because tensions were high, it caused us to be fearful, because we got a helicopter rolling over our heads, and we got police in the back alleys and stuff. We see them. They're trying to stay out of sight. But,
Yes.
They're trying to encircle us like we're in a corral.
That's what they was doing.
Yeah. And it just turned chaotic. And some people that wanted to loot, that was a prime opportunity to take advantage of that.
Right.
But it was not a riot. It was a rally.
Right.
So it was very important that they came away with the understanding that that's not what it started out with. We were not disorderly.
Absolutely.
We were not disorderly. It was
because what was happening, Janet, and I don't mean to cut you off, but as you remember correctly, being there, we had dismissed the crowd.
Yeah.
We got down off the car, and we put Cortez in the car so he could get on back to the hotel. And we was dismissing, and all at once, this police car pulled in the middle of the street, and, and issued those orders for us to get on the way, get out of the street, as though, that was basically something that they knew that was going to antagonize,
right.
Sam,
let me ask you this. Did you all had a permit to have the rally, right?
Yes.
You had to get permits to close off streets and stuff. So
yes.
You had a permit to have the rally. So for them to come in for any reason, there was no reason for them to intervene, because you had a permit.
Yes. Yes.
They wouldn't let us have no rally without permits.
Nope.
And in order to make sure that we could have the rally, you got the permit.
Yeah, you got to go down to the safety department. We had to send somebody to the safety department to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I won't hold you any longer, but I'm going to let the rest of this of the panel discussion play out, because I just, some people say, it's on YouTube, you can go look and see it. But when you put it in some people's faces,
right,
it's a whole nother story. I edited some of it because YouTube kept trying to throw in a bunch of commercials, and I had to take them out.
Sure.
So, but I want to say thank you. And whenever there are more discussions like this, and if something going on and you don't know if I know about it, please let me know.
I will definitely know. And there's one coming up in September at the University of Louisville.
Okay.
I got a call at the University of Louisville. And Rachel Platt and
Platt.
the panel, we would probably be meeting pretty soon because what we're trying to do is trying to get this book put together. From
You all
each
are working on a
perspective.
book?
Oh yeah, yeah, we've been working on it, but we haven't got the correct guidance what we want to do. Okay. So Rachel wants to work with us and put us with the right people, who can edit it, ghostwrite, and all of those type of things. So just as soon as that's probably going to take a few months for this to get, out and developed, but we're working on that. And then I'm going to do an individual book because there were a lot of things that you couldn't say. Okay, you couldn't say it because we only had what it was an hour and a half, maybe, or something like that. It was running a little late, like I was tonight.
Right.
Yeah, I got.
Yeah, you can always come back on if there's some more you want to talk about.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. I promise you I'll do that, and I promise you that I will. And I just wanted you to know about this University of Louisville thing because they want the student body to hear this, these things. So we should be, and sometimes in September, as soon as they get back for fall semester, we should be there. But I will notify anybody, or you can notify anybody after I tell you the time and date. Okay?
Sounds good.
Janet, I appreciate it. And I remember the old park days. And yeah, I know you was the recreational lady down there at Igon. You and Ben.
Yeah.
Oh, Ben, and Ben didn't get a lot of recognition for that, but that's why they play basketball down there.
We did our 50th anniversary of the Dirt Bowl 2019. Ben was still with us, so he got his flowers.
Yes, ma'am.
He got his flowers.
All right.
Okay.
Well, God bless and
let
peace
me tell you this, Sam. It's dinner time.
Yes, ma'am.
Guess who's coming to dinner? Bon appetit. Go ahead.
Okay. Peace to you, sister.
See you soon. Take care, darling.
All right. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Sam Hawkins. I thought I'd let him go because, I can go for a while. But what I am going to do is I'm going to play the remainder of this part 2 of the discussion. I'm going to move it back. I brought you up to where the mayor made an apology to the Black Six. And I think that was monumental. Very seldom do Black folks get anybody apologizing to them for the treatment that we receive. So I'm going to move I'm going to put this on the screen for you. And I'm going to let it play out. And I'm going to say bon appetit, but watch the rest of this part 2 of the Black Six. Okay, let me take it back.
As a neighborhood, that era was the beginning for us because we were just moving into the West End. And our hopes and aspirations at that time were high. And since that time, they've been dashed with disappointments. And when we look at 28th and Greenwood, for example, it's been 50 years. There's been no capital investments in the western part of this county during all those years. But the rest of the county has grown tremendously and expanded and so forth. And we need to generate that interest in the capital and development of the West End right now, and we need to do it as quickly as possible. There is one. There is hope in the sense that during this administration of Mayor Fisher, we've had the opportunity to communicate with government and to stress what those needs are. And we're beginning transforming the Housing Authority through its Board of Commissioners to be able to meet the challenge of bringing these opportunities to the community and to be able to reach out and get our kids and put them to work in the right way and to build that structure that we know that we sorted out to build as we begin to move into the West End in the early 1960s.
Very good.
Sam, what are some of the parallels that you see between then and now?
Well, Rachel, I'm gonna do something that you might not understand. I'm kind of a changed person, a more spiritual minded person than I used to be. And I got an index card in my pocket because I knew this question was gonna come up. Okay. And here's what I'm gonna say to you, and you might not understand what I'm gonna say. The times that we're having right now are very difficult times. We're living in perilous times right now. And I wrote down 4 things that I guess that you might have to look at to kind of find out what I'm talking about. My spiritual gratitudeness have gone into a whole different level than secular times. I don't look at the situation in this city or in this nation like it was, and I can't see it doing anything because I wrote 4 different texts that I read from Scripture. One is Matthew 5, 43 to 44. If you read that, you'll see what I'm saying. The other is Matthew chapter 4 through 14. And the other is Thessalonians chapter 1 through 12. And the other is 2 Timothy 3. And to me right now, I understand what Matthew was saying and everything, but because of my spiritual incline right now. 2 Timothy 3 is exactly where I think we're at. There's a lot of hate going on in this country right now. And what's happening is that we are divided into these different types of camps. There's a false narrative going on in the country whereby race has become the #1 issue. It used to be about black folks in the 60s. Now it's about Mexicans. It's about Asians. So I can't see us. I understand prosperity, what he was talking about. I can't see us going anywhere from the hate that we got right now. And I can't see us getting out of these things because of the scripture I just told you about. You need to read them and find out why. Because there's so much lie and untruth. And we're in camps right now that people don't even know where their heads at. Disillusionment is alive in this country right now. White people that used to be clans, used to be white citizens, have taken off their hood. They don't no longer need them. They can just come out right now and say what they want to say about folks. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to sit here and say that, but I'm around them. I know, I'm around them and I can see it all the time happening. So it's clear to me because of my spiritual uplifting that I can't compare yesterday to today because today is more evil than it's ever been.
You think after 50 some years there would be progress, but what we have seen and what you're saying is no. I want to save time for you all to ask some questions. So Vita, if you want to stand, I wouldn't mind if you would go over and ask Dolores, first of all, the Delahanty family who's been here with your husband. Dolores, we talked on the phone and I said, have we made progress in the past 50 years? Your thoughts on that?
The problem is so deep, and the times today are so divisive in this country that we have to keep working at it and working at it and working at it. So I'm not certain how much true progress we have made. A lot of it is just superficial and not from the heart.
This is a question for Sam and Bill, maybe, anybody really. Sam, you made reference to the fact that the jailer told you you had an agent provocateur. Was that Cortez?
That is correct.
And Cortez was responsible in he was going to make arrangements to bring Stokely Carmichael to Louisville, and that never happened.
That is correct also.
And he was employed in some regard by the FBI.
Let's see, I'm gonna have to ask Bill that because that's what I hear. Okay, that's what I was told.
He was an alleged plant.
Yes.
Was
Well-
that ever proven?
I was going to ask what anybody knows about that.
Never proven.
Now, were you adding to that about Cortez? Okay.
Yes, in 87. In 87, I was getting my doctorate at the University of Iowa. And I met and talked with Stokely personally. And we talked about a lot of things, but one of them, he didn't know about the riot that finally took place. He said the day before, when he was on his way, he got picked up by the FBI and detained. And they so apparently they put Cortez in his place, and Cortez knew what he was supposed to do. There's no doubt in my mind, based on talking about Stokely, that Cortez was a provocateur. And all around the country, and when you connect this to the COINTELPRO or pro-COINTEL, the unit that the CIA had helped put into the FBI, counterintelligence and propaganda. And so when you don't accept it and stop it, was started before, so you can stop it. Does it make sense?
Following those years, I did research, and it definitely clear my name. And I did find that the COINTELPRO was a part of that, and that the FBI was a part of it, and that we were targeted. What I couldn't get in my research was identification of persons and names. They were all blotted out. I have records where the whole pages are blotted out. And the true facts will never be known because it's classified information. It's still classified. As I've those records released over the years. And so, as far as the truth is concerned, the FBI would have to come out and just expose it to the public that, what the true record is, because it's there, it's there, the record is there, but it's just not being disclosed.
Thank you.
Like Sherry, I was a part of the civil rights movement in the city. And that day, I was standing right next to Little Palace. And when you say what caused everything to happen, I saw a little boy standing on top of the building, and he threw a pop bottle. And the sound of the pop bottle dispersed the crowd. We ran. I was with a girlfriend. She fell down. I had to go back and pick her up. I said, you got to run, honey. You can't, But that day they had told us that Stokely wasn't going to be able to make it. And there was a helicopter zooming around. There was no riot. There was no confrontation. We were not confrontational. We were there for a rally. And what happened caused confusion. If you, just like hearing a gunshot, that sound of that bottle sounded like a gunshot. And everyone began to run. And everything that happened after that happened after that.
Well, thank you all for a great panel. Did you all ever receive an apology from the judiciary or the city?
Anybody?
I don't
Did you
know.
ever, did anybody ever receive an apology, Manfred? The
No.
mayor's asking?
No.
No, ma'am.
No.
So when we, hear these people that want to denounce critical race theory today and say that we just need to move on, and there are people that look like this, until we acknowledge the harm that's happened in the past, it's hard to move on.
That's right.
So I wasn't there then, but I'm here now. I represent an institution, so I apologize.
Thank you.
One day I met him in an elevator, and we were not friends. We did not have anything after that case. And he said to me, kind of out of the blue, he said, Bill, I never knew there were so many innocent people. And I take that for whatever it's worth. The only conversation we ever had after this case.
Yes.
Thank you all for sharing your experiences as a young cat. It's helpful to hear. I was struck by the fact that a lot of you found out about COINTELPRO and surveillance years after. So when you think about what's going on in today's climate, how much do you think that is still happening as a government tactic with Black Lives Matter?
Anybody?
We all, as Manfred was talking about, the Freedom of Information Act is not really what everybody thinks it is. They think that you can go down there and you can write this letter and you can get this information, they'll give it out to you. But like Manfred was talking about, it's redacted because they don't want you to know who the agents were. And, years later, we were still, some of us still, agents were still watching us.
Their families, because what I found in the record, which I could identify based on knowing the people who were being blacked out, so to speak, that they had questioned my family, and it created that void in the family where you separated from family, and that went on for 20 years. So this is the impact that that type of government action has on the family.
Destroys.
And it destroys the family. That's true. Mm-hmm.
I think Joy had one question that she wanted to ask of each of you as well.
This has been an amazing discussion, so we'll get ready to conclude here. How do you all suggest that we move forward? And anybody can weigh in on that.
Well, right now, as we look at our society, and I think everybody's expressed the serious condition that our communities are in, not only here, but around the country, we really need to get back to organizing. During that particular era, there was a strong effort to organize. And Black Men Unity League of Kentucky was one of them. The Western Community Council was another one. Then we had the NAACP, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And there were many groups that were carrying on activities that were pulling the neighborhoods together. And that sort of splintered that, and we started going downhill at that point. And we haven't recovered from that. So if I could encourage and stimulate neighborhood interests, organize and create a structure where we can begin to count on our youth, provide opportunity for our youth, employment for our youth. And the initiatives that I have in terms of economics, home building and home replacement, we have to replace that as a part of the economic component in rebuilding our neighborhoods.
What do we do with the hate Sam was talking about? How do we overcome that? Is there anybody on the panel? I'm looking at you, Ken Clay.
That's a big question. As I don't have an answer, to be honest with you. But the country, the entire country, is in a position of evil. And I think one of the things I want to say here in Louisville, you know, what we've got to really address is the injustice that has happened right in our community. And until we do, I think we're stuck. You know, there's got to be justice for Breonna. Absolutely, some form of justice for Breonna. We can't move forward. I don't think we can move forward until we do something about that. But there has to be that effort to bring us together to really work, you know, collectively to rid this community of the hatred, you know, and of the injustice. We've got to stand up and admit that we've been wrong, and we need to hear that apology, like the mayor got up and apologized. We need that apology, you know, to the Black community and to the community in whole, and particularly to the victims. You know, justice for Breonna's got to be the answer.
My opinion is that it hasn't changed that much since 1968 in Louisville. And especially white people must go and talk to other white people about the need for racial justice. And what has happened since 68 is we have Trump and Trumpism. And if we don't do that, if we don't attack that blot on our community, then things are going to get worse. We have mutual interest in solving these problems and dealing with racial justice, but white people have to go talk to white people about that.
Thank you very much, Bill.
That the community bestows on you. That's not something that you can assume within yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and what I've received is that support from the community in recovery. And I didn't get my wealth back, but I got my integrity back. And the way that I think that you have to approach this, and the way I did, was that when you stand for what's right, you don't live in shame of it. You have your integrity, your dignity, and your self-respect. And we have to pick ourselves up and get back in the fight. I'm 86. I'm still in the fight.
Okay. Oh, we've got one more. I was going to say that was the perfect quote to end it on. Oh,
I do not give you a downer.
No, not at all.
But what I would like to propose is to piggyback on what the mayor has said and also on what Ken Clay has said. There needs to be an official apology from the Metro Council of Metropolitan Louisville and the Metro City on what was done, because you have to start with truth and reconciliation. And not knowing a lot about it, I will be glad to pick it up here. Part 2 of that is to pick up on Alberta O. Jones, who actually started in Louisville in the early 60s in having those conversations with people of both white and of color to get communities to understand their own reconciliation of how they need to live together. I'll be happy to work on that too.
I don't believe in the accolade type thing. But let me say something. This family right here, this white family right here, the Delahaney's, even today, they're in the work of helping the community. Katie, right here. So I want to thank these people right here. They're the heroes. Them Delahaney's over there, and Bill and others like them. They're the heroes.
Well, go ahead and we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Oh, go ahead, Sherry.
Names of the 2 young people who were murdered during the time, and I just passed it down. It was Matthias Browder and Fannie Grove's son, James.
Mm-hmm. So with that, wanted to make sure that we mention those names. And I think one takeaway tonight Thank you, Mayor, for standing up and doing that apology. I think we all leave with, it should never take 54 years, right? We hope to do better in the future. I appreciate all of you coming. These conversations are to try to move the needle, how we can find a safe space and common ground, better understanding, teach each other, and for me to call it a right. And now I leave saying no, right? So it's education, and it's admitting that I don't know, but I want to learn and I want to be better. And I think Louisville wants to be better. So thank you all for coming and being part of this honest conversation. My thanks to the Courier Journal, Joy, and Lean Into Louisville, because these conversations have to happen with all of us together at the table trying to figure things out. So I'm going to let Joy with the final comments. I do have to thank the Gaines Foundation for supporting this program tonight. So thanks to Gaines. And Joy, the final words from you and all the good work you do with Lean Into Louisville.
Absolutely. Just give it another round of applause for the panel and then Sharon.